Hi, everybody. I'm Delmer Chilton. I'm the new interim minister at Mountain Presbyterian Church. Usually when one begins any kind of ministry, in the terms of negotiating the call or hire, one gets an opportunity to meet the congregation, meet and greet, and talk with them. But we are living in odd times, aren't we? So most of the negotiations for me becoming your interim happened actually over Zoom with the session and other people. And I really am trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do this with social distancing. And this video is part of that. I want to introduce myself to you, and I'm looking forward to a time that I can find a way to see each of you and get to know you better. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and then talk a little bit about the job of being an interim minister. People ask me where I'm from, and I tell them I grew up in Mayberry, almost literally. I grew up on a farm about 7 miles from Mount Airy, North Carolina, which was Andy Griffith's hometown, and was sort of the model for Mayberry in the Andy Griffith Show. Actually, Opie and I are 1 day apart in age. He's 1 day older, Ron Howard, than I am. So I tell my boys, if they want to know what I was like as a boy, just watch the Andy Griffith Show, and you'll see. I bleed Carolina blue. I went to UNC and got a degree there. My wife has 2 degrees, an undergraduate and a graduate degree from UNC. I went there, and then I went to seminary and Duke Divinity, Lutheran Seminary, and then I've done ministry around the South. I was near Charlotte, suburb of Atlanta. I was in Nashville for 9 years, and then 18 years ago we came to Clay County, near Hayesville, to work for the Hinton Rural Life Center, which is a United Methodist related center, but I would work there as a Lutheran. I've always been a Lutheran since 1982. But the Lutherans have lots of agreements with Methodists and Presbyterians and Episcopalians where the clergy can serve without changing denominations. So I worked for Hinton Center, working with continuing education and spiritual growth, both for lay leaders and for pastors. Sometime after that, I became an assistant to the bishop in Atlanta while still living here, because I mostly just traveled around the South in a car, going to congregations, doing pretty much the same kind of thing that your general presbyter does, working with congregations and with committees. And I did that for 4 or 5 years. Then I started doing some interim ministries. I did one for the Episcopal Church in Murphy, the Lutheran Church in Andrews, and the Lutheran Church in Athens, Georgia, among other things. And I retired 3 years ago, though I've been able to keep preaching. And I am delighted to have this opportunity to be your interim minister for the next year. As I said, my wife Deborah and we met in high school and married in our early 20s while we're still undergraduates. We're soon to celebrate 45 years. We have 2 sons. The oldest, Lowell, worked for Microsoft after college. He was a computer design engineer, moved to Seattle, worked for them 8, 9, 10 years, and then decided he was called to follow in his father's footsteps and be a Lutheran pastor. So he has finished seminary and finished all his training, and he is a pastor in small town New Berlin, Pennsylvania. And his wife, Kate, whom he met in seminary, is also a Lutheran pastor. And they're celebrating 1 year of marriage and 1 year of ordination this month. My other son, Joseph, was in high school when we moved to Hayesville, and he played basketball for Hayesville. Brag moment. While he was there, he was the most valuable player in the state championship game when Hayesville won the state championship in boys basketball back in 2004. He went on an academic and athletic scholarship at Brevard College, where he played basketball and was the valedictorian. Finished after Brevard, he wrote for the Cherokee Scout for a while, then went to UNC to law school, and since then he's been a legal aid attorney in Hayesville and in Silva. He's married to Crystal, who is also a UNC graduate and an attorney. And they have 1 son, my grandson Luke, who is perfect in every possible way. So that's the family. We live in Brasstown. I was thinking today I should measure. It's probably 5 or 6 miles north of the church. If you could fly straight there, it's 19 miles around the road. And delighted to be with you. Let me tell you a little bit about what interim ministry looks like. There are two things basically an interim minister does. The most important in many ways is continue the pastoral ministry of the church. I will preach, teach, provide pastoral care, do the basic administration of the church. Now, one of the things that we've decided to do is that I'll be doing this on a half-time basis. So therefore, we'll have to decide with the session what parts of what Travis was doing that I will be doing, because I can't do everything he was doing on a half-time basis. So we're going to prioritize, and we'll be needing to hear from all of you about what those priorities are that you need from me as we work out exactly how I will do this half-time. But basically, that's the primary job. The secondary job of an interim minister is to help guide the congregation through this process of moving from one long-term pastorate through that process to where you're ready to call a new settled pastor for another long term. And in this interim time, there are things that need to happen. They're sometimes broken out. It's called the 5 developmental tasks. That's too complicated. It's basically, though, you need to figure out who you are now. You're not the same congregation that called Travis Adams 30 years ago. And you're not the same congregation you were 10 years ago. No congregation is. So we need to spend some time looking at where you've been. Just where have you been? And where have you developed? And where are you now? What is the situation you're in now? And what does the future look like? And when you figure out what you want your future to look like, where God is calling you, then you'll know what kind of pastor, what kind of leader you need to call to help you get there. My job is to work with you, not to dictate any of that, but to use some skills and some techniques I have, and I'll be very open with you about what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing now. We're going to talk about this as we figure out who we are, where we've been, and where we need to go in the future. And I am excited about the opportunity to be with you during that process. Thank you.